Oh no. Do you ever try and mix paint colors to try and get a beautiful green or pink or purple and it just turns into a mess of grays and browns and blah? Well, unfortunately with paint, you can't undo that process and put the paint back in the bottle. However, with algebraic expressions, you kind of can. My name's Miss Danielson and today we're factorizing expressions. This is our third lesson on this topic, so if you haven't joined us for our first two lessons, please check out the description box below so that you can get yourself caught up before we start. Let's get started. Just as a bit of a reminder to factorizing expressions, when we factorize expressions, we're looking at all terms of the expression and trying to find the highest common factor. In this lesson, we'll be talking about factors which are both numbers and letter terms. When we factor out that common factor, our goal is to have a nice, tidy, simplified expression inside the bracket, just like pulling out all those different colors of paint and leaving a nice, tidy bucket. Let's give it a go. So in this example, looking at 30ab squared minus 18ab plus 24a squared b, I can see that all three of those terms could be divided by the number 6. 30, 18, and 24 have 6 as a highest common factor. Then I also look at the letters, the variables, and I see that all three terms have a and b in them. The first term has a and b squared, but the second term only has ab, so I can't factor out b squared. So my highest power for a and b as the highest common factor is simply ab. What I need to remember to put inside the brackets are the corresponding factor pairs for each term. That means if I were to divide 30ab squared by 6ab, what would remain inside that bracket? If you prefer to think the other way around, what do I need to multiply 6ab by to get 30ab squared? Well, 6 times 5 would make the 30. I've got the a here, so I don't need to multiply that by anything else. And b, I would need to multiply by another b to make b squared. So that's going to be 5b. For the second term, negative 18ab, first of all, a negative term divided by a positive expression will still be negative, so it will be negative something. 18 divided by 6 is 3, and ab divided by ab will cancel out my ab's, so that will just be negative 3. Don't forget that negative sign. It's really important. Without a plus or minus sign between two terms, they would end up grouping together to make one term. And we want our answer inside the bracket to have as many terms as our original expression had. Our third term in the expression, 24a squared b, if I divide positive 24a squared b by 6ab, 24 divided by 6 would be 4. A squared divided by a would cancel out one of those a's, so it would be a, and b divided by b would cancel out the b completely, so that's positive 4a. Don't forget we need to do our checks to make sure that we've done that correctly. Check that our factorized expression has the correct number of terms inside the bracket. I've got 1, 2, 3 terms inside the bracket separated with either a plus or a minus sign. And I had 1, 2, 3 terms in my original expression. Also, check that my factorized expression would expand out correctly. So if I took that common factor that's in front of the brackets and multiplied it back through, 6ab times 5b would make 30ab squared. 6ab times negative 3 would make negative 18ab. And 6ab times 4a would make 24a squared b. So that does multiply out correctly. Our last check is to make sure that I factorized fully. Make sure that these three terms inside the bracket don't have any other common factors that I could have factored out apart from 1, because all values could be divided by 1. And they don't, so I factorized fully. I'm ready to move on to the next question. So let's try a few more examples. If you feel ready, go ahead and hit pause and try them for yourself. Otherwise, I'll talk you through them. So looking at example A, looking at the numbers 27, 18, and 45, I can think of a factor of all three terms. My highest common factor is 9. But also look at the letters. X, XY, XYZ All three of those terms also involve the letter x. So my highest common factor is a number and variable factor, 9x. And then inside the brackets, I'll look for my factor pairs. 27x divided by 9x would leave me with 3. 18xy divided by 9x. 18 divided by 9 gives me 2. The x will cancel out, so it'll just be positive 2y. Don't forget that plus sign, and it is a plus sign because I divided a positive term by a positive. Positive 45, xyz divided by 9x. Number divided by number, that would be 5. Letters divided by letter, the x will cancel out, but I'll still have the yz. So that's positive 5yz. Double check that I have the right number of terms inside the brackets. Double check that it would multiply out correctly. So 9x times 3, 9x times 2y, 9x times 5yz. And double check that inside the bracket there is no other common factor apart from 1. On to B. Again, look at all three terms. Look at the numbers. What would a common factor of 6, 3, and 15 be? They can all divide by 3, so my highest common factor is 3, but also look at the letters. uv, uv squared, u squared v. All three of those terms involve both u and v, but the highest power of u that all three terms have is just 1, so just u. And the highest power of v that all three terms have is just 1 as well, so just v. So my highest common factor is again a number and variable, which is 3uv. Inside the brackets go our factor pairs. 6uv divided by 3uv. Number divided by number would be 2, and letters divided by letters, they cancel out completely. uv divided by uv would be 1, so 2 times 1, which is 2. Next term is a negative term. Negative 3uv squared divided by positive 3uv would end up as a negative inside the bracket. Again, number by number, negative 3 divided by 3 would be negative 1. U divided by u would cancel that out. V squared divided by v would leave me with just v. So that's going to be negative 1v, or simply negative v. Our third term, 15 u squared v. Again, number by number, positive 15 divided by positive 3 is going to give me a positive term of 5. And then we look at our letters. U squared divided by u will leave me with a single u, and v divided by v will cancel out the v. So that's going to be positive 5u. Again, double check the number of terms, double check that it would multiply through correctly, and make sure that there is no common factor inside that bracket. Otherwise, it would not have been factorized fully. Last example here, looking at all three terms there, I hope you noticed that 7, 7, and 49 have got a common number factor of 7, but also look at the letters. A squared b squared, a squared bc, a squared bc squared. All three terms have a and b in them, but not c. And look closely. All three terms don't just have a, they all have a squared. So I could actually factor out 7, a squared, b. That's my highest common factor. You need to take into account the powers of the variables as well. So my highest common factor is 7a squared b. If I divide the first term by 7a squared b, the 7 divided by 7 would be 1, the a squared divided by a squared would be 1, and the b squared divided by b would be b. So that's 1b, or simply b. My second term, again, 7 divided by 7 would be 1, a squared divided by a squared would cancel out, that would be 1, b divided by b, that would be 1, and c, positive because it was a positive term, divided by positive 7a squared b, so plus c. And finally, our last term, 49a squared b c squared. Number by number, 49 divided by 7 is 7. A squared divided by a squared will cancel, would be 1. B divided by b would be 1, canceling out. And finally, c squared. has no c variable to divide by, so that would simply be 7c squared. Positive 7c squared because it was a positive term divided by positive 7a squared b. Now I hope that's all clear. You might notice I'm moving a bit quicker today because we have been through 2 other lessons on this. So if you're finding that still a little bit difficult, you might want to have another look at Factorizing Expressions Part 1 and Factorizing Expressions Part 2. Again, they're down in the description box below. Otherwise, let's move on to our practice exercise. Go ahead and have a look at these questions. Pay close attention, not just to the variables, but also to their powers, as well as to the plus or minus signs in between my terms. Go ahead and copy those questions down. Factorize fully, considering that your factor will be both a number and a letter term in most cases. Check your answer has the right number of terms inside the brackets, that it multiplies out correctly, and that it doesn't have any common factors inside the brackets, in which case it would not have been factorized fully. Go ahead and hit pause and do that now, and hit play when you're ready to take up your answers. I hope you've had a chance to hit pause, because here come your answers. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J. How did you do? I hope you did okay. If not, please send me a message. Leave a comment down in the comment section down below so that I can maybe clarify something for you. Otherwise, until next time, keep practicing and I'll see you soon.